Hi guys, and welcome to the Kontakt Script Programmer. Today we're going to be talking about 2.7, which can be a little bit hard to understand if you're not aware of snapshots. So very first thing I'll do is talk about snapshots. Snapshots are kind of like the presets available in Kontakt instruments. So if we set up a new instrument, this might be your view. If you don't have this view, you may have this view. If you don't have this view, you are probably doing something wrong. So usually I'll have this view open just because in Kontakt to know where your outputs are going and know what MIDI channel you're using. If I'm using a lot of different instruments, I'll usually use a lot of different MIDI channels. So when we are using Kontakt snapshots to save specific settings, for instance, to make presets. If we've made a synthesizer, we're going to have to make a lot of different presets. We will use this snapshot part here. So with snapshots, we can set settings to whatever we like and then hit save a snapshot. And when we've saved a snapshot, we'll pick a spot to save it, and that will be one of the presets. And everything inside the instrument, from where the knobs are positioned to what labels are active to what button or the sync menus or the menu drop downs or whatever, all of that will be saved in its current position. Okay, so if you try and save it just using Kontakt like this, it won't actually work that way, because Kontakt is its own sample or its own instrument. So because it is part of its own architecture, saving through Logic settings or Pro Tools or Ableton or any other DAW really won't actually work. So we'll generally have to actually save the instrument by itself in Kontakt using this floppy disk and save the snapshot that you're currently working at. And you can see right down the bottom, we've got save snapshot, allows you to save changes to the parameters of this instrument as a snapshot. Clicking this button will open a save snapshot window where you can enter a new snapshot name. So today, we're going to use the onPersistence changed to determine whether or not the initialization callbacks happen when you load a snapshot or not. So sometimes you may want them, you may want presets to change every single setting, but sometimes you might not want them to reload your knobs or re-change, reinitialize everything. This is sort of to keep load times down and something you should be pretty aware of. So the onPersistence change callback is called whenever the persistent variables change in an instrument. It is always executed after the initialization callback has been called and upon loading a snapshot. For example, set snapshot type, it's either a 0 or a 1. If it's a 0, the initialization callback will be executed. Okay, so it'll be the opposite of this, will be executed on snapshot loading. If it's 1, it won't be. So the initialization callback will not be executed upon snapshot loading. So it won't rehash this idea, which is why we've got it inside the initialization. We're going to reset the KSP timer. Again, this for restarting the whole Kontakt programming architecture. We're going to declare a variable called initialization flag. This is going to basically say 1 if initialization callback has been executed, 0 if it has not. Okay, and that will be displayed in some text. The initialization flag, at the moment, we're setting it to 1, so it will say the initialization callback has been executed. Okay, from there, we're going to declare a UI label just so that we can see where this is going to be written. And we're going to move that to 2.2, so 2x, 2y, and set the text of the label, okay, of this label here, to initialization callback, and then set the KSP timer. So there'll be initialization callback, and then there'll be a number for whatever the KSP time is up to. Afterwards, I really need to clear some space. Afterwards, we're going to create a function called add text. The add text line, so this is just adding one line to text called to the label text called persistence change callback, and then we're again setting the KSP timer, and we're ending the function. And this is all one block by itself. Okay. On persistence changed, so again, persistence changed as a separate function. So we haven't called this yet because it's its own thing. If initialization flag is 1, then the instrument has been loaded correctly, and you call add texts, which immediately brings up this function, which changes the persistence changed callback. Otherwise, the snapshot has been loaded, okay, because we're changing the two of these, and so we set the text label to say the snapshot's been loaded, and we set the initialization flag back to 0, which again will then go to say it has not been executed. Okay, so let's type this guy out and let me show you what we are talking about. So we're going to create a new instrument, and in the script editor we're going to talk about this as we go. On initialization, set snapshot type 1. So that's saying the callback is not executed upon snapshot loading. KSP timer. Declare initialization flag. And then set that initialization flag to 1. Declare a label and call it label and move it to 2.2. Set text label for the label and call it init callback, and then add in the KSP timer value, and on. From there, we're going to create our function add text. So this is what's going to populate the field of the label so that we can read what's changing. Changed callback, and again we're going to add the KSP timer and end the function. On persistence changed, if initialization flag is 1, then the instrument's been loaded, otherwise the snapshot's been loaded. So we can set the text for the label that says snapshot loaded. And if, and then we're going to set our initialization flag back to 0 so that we reset that behavior. Did I get it all right? So we can see here initialization callback happened and the persistence change callback happened. Okay, so if I go to the snapshots menu now and save a snapshot, okay, let's start up 2.7, snap 1. Please enter a name for our snapshots. We'll call it first snapshot. Okay, and we'll save another. Call it second snapshot. It's not really important that we see the changes. What's important is that when we go up and back, you can see immediately as I change, my snapshot's loaded. If I hit apply, my initialization happens. If I hit my snapshots load. Okay, so now we've worked out a way to get this script rather, and how snapshots kind of work to save settings and to load particular program changes based on whether or not you need to load snapshots, or whether or not you need to change variables. So sometimes you will want everything in the patch to change, sometimes you won't. If you have everything changing all the time, it can be much slower patches when you get up to larger files. So you might want to hold some things in RAM and some settings to be the same, and people just be able to change snapshots between other functions. So thanks for checking out 2.7. We're making our way through this, and we'll see what happens in the next one.